Friday after Ash Wednesday, and we read from the prophet Isaiah. Stay with me now, all right? Because it is a little longer than usual. But if you will notice, from Ash Wednesday, our readings are rather short clips from the Old Testament, some from Paul, and then our gospel readings are also clips. They're showing us, setting us, so to speak, on the journey, showing the pattern where it leads to. And here we come to Friday. After Ash Wednesday, we read from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 58. Thus says the Lord God, cry out full-throated and unsparingly. And here Father Rara is slowly losing his voice. Lift up your voice like a trumpet blast. Tell my people their wickedness and the house of Jacob their sins. They seek me day after day and desire to know my ways, like a nation that has done what is just and not abandoned the law of their God. They ask me to declare what is due them, pleased to gain access to God. Why do we fast? Why do we not see it? Afflict ourselves, and you take no note of it? Lo, on your fast day you carry out your own pursuits and drive all your laborers. Yes, your fast ends in quarreling and fighting, striking wicked claw. Would that today you might fast so as to make your voice heard on high? Is this the manner of fasting I wish, of keeping a day of penance? That a man bow his head like a reed and lie in sackcloth and ashes. Do you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? This rather is the fasting that I wish, releasing those bound unjustly, untying the tongues of the yoke, setting free the oppressed, breaking every yoke, sharing your bread with the hungry, sharing your bread with the hungry, sheltering the oppressed and the homeless, clothing the naked when you see them, and not turning your back on your own. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your wound shall quickly be healed. Your vindication shall go before you, and the glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, here I am. Quickly, my dear friends, take note of this. The Lord, then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, here I am. When we cry for help, the Lord will answer, here I am. It's so quick for us to say, we cry for help to the Lord. But if you read this, Isaiah 58, take note of what happens first before that. And if what happens there before that is done, then when we cry for help to the Lord, he will answer. And what happens before that? That makes him answer us. He says, the fasting that I wish, releasing those bound unjustly, untying the tongues of the yoke, setting free the oppressed, breaking every yoke, sharing your bread with the hungry, sheltering the oppressed and the homeless, clothing the naked when you see them, and not turning your back on your own. When we have done that, then when we cry for help, the Lord will answer. Hindi ito yung, naghihirap ako at lahat, cry for help. No. We have to be clear. We're doing our part already in terms of being just. Then, if we cry for help because we know it is insufficient, the work that we do on our own it will not be sufficient, then the Lord will supply. The Lord will hear us and say, "Here I am."
You are watching ETVN Philippines.
Emmanuel, the God with us who saves.
Magandang ignayan din yan, di po ba mga kaibigan? Sinasabi natin sa Ash Wednesday, fasting, almsgiving, prayer. Alas, in the book of the prophet Isaiah, you're praying, you're crying for God for help. And he will say, did you do your fasting? What was the fasting? What is the true fasting in Isaiah? Do justice. And what is justice? Those who are bound unjustly, release them. Those who are hungry, feed them, help them. Those who are homeless, have no shelter, give them homes and shelters. Very concrete, clear, and immediate. That's the fasting that he speaks about. That's the true fasting. It is a just fasting, because we know when we do help those who are in need, we have to give up what is ours. Almsgiving, prayer, fasting. Very concrete, clear, and immediate. Let's move to our gospel reading. The disciples of John, this is from Matthew now, approached Jesus and said, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast much, but your disciples do not fast?" Jesus answered them, "Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast." It has to be made clear again also. Who is the Lord of the fast? Who is the Lord of the almsgiving? Who is the Lord of the prayer? Jesus. And he is there with his disciples. And he is having a meal with them. Now, having a meal and that fellowship is something, we will discuss that later on, very particular, sacred, and not only sacred, but all in Jesus' terms. We'll see that later on. But here, as long as Jesus was with them, he calls the shots. We follow him very clearly. And it is he who says, "When my time comes and I will go, then my disciples will have to do a little bit more because I am no longer present with them, and they will have to give up a lot by themselves as well." Napakaganda po, hindi po ba yung ugnayan? What is the true fast? It's being a just person. In being a just person, there are a lot of immediate, clear, and concrete assistances and helps that we can do for many of our sisters and brothers who need help. And when we do that and perform that, we cry out to God and say, "Help us as we help others." Then the Lord answers us. "Here I am.